My whole life, I always knew I was special. Even with no remainders, I could always move a decimal. Money on my mind while the girls that made un beso. Hustlers in my blood and it's running through my vessels. Just trying to clear the threshold, just trying to make a way. In my race against time, I could see an early grave. School to prison pipeline, 12 years a slave. Suspension and detention is conditioned for a cage.
The next topic we're going to discuss on Boxing Bros is, did Tyson Fury prove that he's the best fighter, the best heavyweight of this generation? Now, he's going on to say he's already proven that he's the best heavyweight of this generation. His wife kind of said the same thing, and you keep hearing a lot of people, particularly in the Fury camp, saying Fury's already proven he's the best heavyweight of this generation. If you look at our other segment, he lists all the titles he's won, which he has held every single recognized title at some point. He's held the Ring Magazine, the WBC, the IBF, the WBA, and the WBO. He's had them all, but he's never had them all at the same time, and the lineal status. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Trill Dollar Bill. Did Tyson Fury prove with his victory over Dillian White that he's the best heavyweight of his generation?
There's still one more Infinity Stone.
Exactly.
The job is not done yet. This job is not done yet. That's how I feel. But he's on his way.
Oh, go ahead.
But he's on his way. It looks like if he continues, he can seem like he can be on his way. But no, there's still more things to do to get that title.
All right, Conspiracy G.
I would say yes. And here's why. If Tyson Fury really legitimately retires right now and they take the WBC belt away from him and is up for grabs, and let's say the winner of AJ Usyk also receives the vacant WBC belt, although they'll be labeled as undisputed, everybody in the back of their mind will be like, but you didn't fight Tyson Fury. And so because of that, if we're just looking at it from right now, I would have to say yes. You know what I mean? He's the best heavyweight right now, like if he walks away. But if we're saying if he stays on, then that's different. But I'm assuming this question is because he's flirting with retirement. So if he just said, hey, you know what? I've had all of those belts at one point. No one has beaten me in the ring. Like, what else do I have to prove? I think clearly you have to prove undisputed, but if he just walks away, I think everyone in the back of their minds going to really be like, do we really think AJ could beat Tyson Fury? Do we really think Alexander Usyk could beat Tyson Fury? And these are the type of questions that will be asked. And then it kind of puts like almost like a question mark, like an asterisk behind whoever becomes undisputed in this generation. Because you're talking about Tyson Fury, who beat two guys that people were like, yo, these dudes are major threats in the heavyweight division. Klitschko and Deontay Wilder. I don't think him beating Dillian White proved anything, to be honest with you. But a lot of people were like, hey, they wanted to see the AJ Wilder fight. Never happened. Fury came in, took that out. Now people want to see the AJ versus Tyson Fury fight, but that may not happen either. So how I'm looking at it is, if Tyson Fury does walk away right now, he does have a legitimate argument of still being crowned the best heavyweight of this generation.
You don't think that they would feel, nobody would be like, he just left, if he just left now and gave up the belts, and they was like, Andy Ruiz and Luis Ortiz fights for the WBC, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you think there'll be no question?
Those guys could beat Tyson.
You don't think there'll be no question, like how you saying about, could he have beat a Joshua? Could he have beat a Usyk? You don't think that those questions will linger on?
Those questions will land, but that same question will apply to all three gentlemen, to AJ, to Usyk, and to Tyson Fury. So because all three of them will be faced with that question, the real question is, what do people believe? Now it's all about belief, And when I'm thinking about those three gentlemen, I'm just being honest, man. Tyson Fury, who's 6'9", who moves the way that he moves, he is the biggest threat out of the three, And me, I'm not even a Tyson Fury fan, but I got to give it up to homeboy. Like, the skill sets that he has, it's going to be hard to beat. So You know, that's what I'm saying. Like, if he, my argument is, if he retired today, he does have a solid argument of saying he is the best heavyweight of this generation.
I think your opinion is based solely on the weight that you're giving Tyson Fury for his victories over Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
And your argument is extremely flawed for this purpose. If Fury retiring today and Joshua becoming undisputed later, or Usyk becoming undisputed later, would taint their undisputed, then how can Fury have a legitimate argument to be in the best heavyweight of a generation when Lennox Lewis retired with all the belts? Lennox Lewis was the lineal champion. Lennox Lewis was the last man to beat the man. Then he retired.
Yeah, but we're talking about this generation.
What? We're talking about this generation?
Yeah, that's the
You
question.
have to let me finish my point so you can understand it.
All right, go ahead.
If Lennox Lewis was the man from the last generation who beat the man, and he retired with all the belts and the lineal status, and he never lost, he never passed the torch to the upcoming generation, which was about to happen with Vitaly Klitschko, but didn't happen. He didn't give him a rematch. He just flat out retired, relinquished the belts. Now the belts were collected by the Klitschko brothers and other heavyweights scattered in between, like a Samuel Peters, a Layman Brewster. These guys, every now and then people picked up titles. But what ended up happening was the WBC went with Vitaly, and all the other belts went with Vladimir Klitschko. WBC went with Vitaly, WBO, WBA, IBF went with Vladimir Klitschko. So now you have the two best heavyweights on the planet who cleaned out the heavyweight division, right? They each have a strap. Now, it can be settled. The man can be reassembled if they fight each other, because we would have undisputed and we would have no doubts about who's the best fighter in the heavyweight division, but it never happened because they were brothers and they decided not to face one another. So they put lineal status on the line for a fight with Vladimir Klitschko, and I believe it was Corey Saunders. Vladimir Klitschko beats him, so he gets lineal. Then later on, Fury beats Vladimir. But we don't know if he would have beat Vitaly. Vitaly retires and relinquishes his belt. The WBC becomes vacant. Somehow Deontay Wilder gets his hands on it. I'm not going to go through, but Deontay Wilder gets his hands on it. At the time Deontay Wilder gets his hands on it, Tyson Fury suspended. So Tyson Fury being suspended, he's no longer able to fulfill the requirements needed to keep his belt. And in that time, a crop of very dangerous heavyweights emerged who are better than the sloppy fighters who were around at the time when the competition Fury was beating was like Derek Chisora and local British level fighters, right? With the exception of him beating Vladimir Klitschko, of course. But after he beat Vladimir Klitschko, he was forced into a hiatus. And in that time, there's a Dillian White, there's a Anthony Joshua, there's a Joseph Parker. There's so many good heavyweights that emerge, and he hasn't fought any of them. He comes and he beats Deontay Wilder, but many people see Deontay Wilder as an extremely flawed heavyweight, which is not a lie. And he was the one who got Deontay Wilder in the ring because he was coming off of a 2.5-year hiatus. He ballooned up to 400 pounds, and Deontay Wilder gave him the shot. Deontay Wilder never fought anyone else, never fought Dillian White, never fought Anthony Joshua, never fought Joseph Parker, never fought Kubrat Pulev, never fought Alexander Povetkin, never fought any of these top guys. Meanwhile, one of the champions who took all the belts in his absence, Anthony Joshua, did it by beating all those guys. Remember, Anthony Joshua was the first one to knock out Dillian White. Anthony Joshua was the first one to do that. And then Povetkin was the second one to do it. And then what Fury did, he's just one of many. That wasn't nothing new what he did to Dillian White. What he did to Deontay Wilder, yes, it is impressive. But again, we still don't know how good Deontay Wilder is because he only had one decent fight on his resume prior to the Tyson Fury, which is Luis Ortiz. And Luis Ortiz stunned the hell out of him and almost beat him in their first fight. And Luis Ortiz was boxing the hell out of him in his second fight until he landed the straight right hand. So my argument would be, just as much as you're giving Fury credit for being the best heavyweight of the generation, I think there's going to be a lot of people who looked at Fury as someone who ducked smoke.
No, and I actually agree with you. But I remember, I'm just saying there is an argument, just like there's an argument against Tyson Fury. So, but I'm picking Tyson Fury over Anthony Joshua because I just believe Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury has a stronger chance of beating Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, based on what you
that's what you do. But the resume. No. I said but the resume. If you got to say who's the best of this generation, you go to resume. Who have they beaten? And then we're gonna say, well, his biggest win would be not to mention, not saying Klitschko, other than Klitschko, would be Deontay Wilder.
So can I ask a question?
And then we prove.
Then what happens if Alexander Usyk beats Anthony Joshua, and then Alexander Usyk says, "You know what? I'm retiring right now." So are we saying because he only beat Anthony Joshua that he can't be in the running for the best heavyweight of this generation?
He wouldn't do that though. But
that's crazy.
Now I agree with you, bro. He wouldn't do that. He's just different. You know what I'm saying? Look, I just believe that it's he wouldn't be because it's just his resume, and then he's just leaving on the hiatus. I don't think everybody Tyson Fury. If you're giving your prediction of who you think he might be, you think he might be AJ, that's fine. If you think he might be Usyk, that's fine. But he didn't. You're giving him credit for victories he ain't even do yet. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? He go in there, he gets stopped by AJ. Who knows? He go in there, he get outworked, and Usyk runs circles around him. We don't know.
Wallin did a hell of a lot better than Dillian White. Who saw that coming?
We didn't see it. Exactly. So we don't know until these guys get in there. So for him to just be like, for right now, I don't see it because I feel like he still has more to accomplish. We're giving him too much credit off of the Deontay Wilder fight, when we all realize that Deontay Wilder really ain't fight nobody. We seen the edits.
Brilliant point, which brings me back into what I'm getting at. You can't say you're the best fighter of the generation until you prove it. In this particular crop of heavyweights, there's been a mess that I just broke down, from Lennox retiring, the Klitschko brothers not fighting each other, that the only way you can really say you're the best heavyweight of this generation is to become undisputed, which means there is no dispute. And the fact that he beat Vladimir Klitschko is cool. Sometimes the only thing you got on someone is an age difference. The only thing Fury got on Anthony Joshua is an age difference. The only thing Fury got on Anthony Joshua is he got there first. He rage-aided. He got to fight Vladimir Klitschko first, and he beat him in a snooze fest. AJ fought him shortly after, and AJ beat him in one of the most exciting fights in history. Now people say, oh, well, Fury made him look easy. No, Fury boxed very cautious in that fight and never gave Vlad a chance. And Joshua went in there to knock him out. Was completely different. Joshua actually stopped Klitschko. Fury won a boring decision. And I'm not here to take away from either one of them, but what I'm saying is you can't just say, oh, his victory over Vladimir Klitschko like AJ don't got one. Right? And you can't say, oh, well, he's the one who beat Deontay Wilder, like AJ didn't offer Wilder $120 million to try to get that fight. So, again, sometimes the only thing you got is an age difference. Sometimes the only thing you got over a person is the fact that you were given the opportunity and that person wasn't. He got the Klitschko opportunity first, and Wilder decided to fight Fury based on what I believe was a cherry going wrong. Okay, I done called it from the beginning. I think that was a cherry going wrong, and he never wanted no parts of AJ. So I can't just put Fury over AJ for that. You got to fight it out. For me, nobody gets dubs unless you fight. So if Fury retires now, hypothetically, and they vacate his belt, and say, like Trill said, Luis Ortiz or Andy Ruiz wins it, Usyk, Josh will fight each other. If Usyk goes on to win all the belts, he's the champ. He's undisputed. There's no dispute for me because he fulfilled every requirement it took to be the man to unify everything. And Fury dropped out in the middle of the race. You can't drop out in the middle of the race and argue that you were the best runner. Get the hell out of here. I can't be running, be in the lead, and right before I get to the finish line, stop and say, y'all know I was going to beat everybody. So I don't need to run through the tape.
Let us know how you feel in the comment section. Please, are you done, bro?
Yeah, I'm done, bro. I figure that's a good way to leave it. You know what I mean?
For real. Let us know how you feel in the comment section. Please like and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter. And please check out our podcast on all major streaming services. We are the Boxing Bros.